Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming. Next, we have Doug Giddings. Doug is the Idaho County Sheriff, and we welcome you to the committee. And go ahead.
Thank you. Doug Giddings, Sheriff of Idaho County for the last 5 years. And I'm here today to share maybe a couple of situations that have occurred in Idaho County. And I want you to understand these are just my, I guess you'd say, my decisions that I make upon these situations that occur. As an elected sheriff, I enforce local and state law. I don't enforce federal law. I'm not required to. I actually couldn't if I wanted to. But my primary focus as a sheriff is to enforce any violation to the citizens of my county where their constitutional rights are violated. That's number one. However, when federal, or I should say, and then when federal agencies start making rules and regulations and they become heavy-handed, and I'll say this in a different way when they talk about the fines. If you had a traffic violation and we charge you $10,000, that would be really heavy-handed. When you put garbage in the wrong dumpster and a federal officer writes you a ticket, it's $500 unless you plead not guilty. Then it can be 1 year in federal prison or $10,000. So which do you think you do? Some of the rules just seem arbitrary, and they, in my opinion, the way I was brought up and tend to believe, is they're just arbitrary. There's some man making that rule. The way I was raised is we have elected officials. They elect me, we elect you, you make the rules. We hire people that are answerable to the people. That's the way it's supposed to work. The federal agencies, and in this case I'm talking about law enforcement or regulation enforcement, they don't answer to the people. They don't answer to anybody. Well, yes, they do. They answer to the person that they work for. And I've had more than one discussion, usually somewhat adversarial, is that they don't answer to the people. And that's not the way our government's supposed to work, in my opinion. And that causes real stress on the folks that the federal agencies are working with. If you've ever been stopped by a federal law enforcement officer, you will get a quick overview of how it works. Because I would guess that you don't have any idea how it works right now. I didn't either when I became sheriff, and I've been in law enforcement since I was 25, and I'm 68. Add that up. That's a long time. You just don't know how it works, and once you're caught in it, you lose. The folks that they hire are usually not local. They come into this area, wherever you are. In my county, I'm referring. There is no administrator. For example, EPA. There are no. I asked somebody out in the hall, have you ever seen an EPA person? Well, of course not. Where are they? Well, maybe there's one here. I don't know. But nobody knows, unless you happen to work with them. But they have not investigators, but inspectors. So an inspector will come and look at your dredge. And what rule does he go by? I don't know. Nobody has a copy of those rules. He'll take pictures, make his report, and then he leaves. You think you're good. You're not, because you're going to get a letter in the mail that you owe X number of dollars if you don't get that dredge out, or whatever they decide. Whatever that inspector and the person who is his boss, which is in this case Seattle. I'm not sure that the people in Seattle understand the local, I guess you would say, the local process, the local people, their mentality. They don't even understand the local government or the local environment. They're not from Boise, although there are some in Boise, but they probably weren't born and raised here. Probably born like the one is from Alaska. You will get an EPA violation in the mail if you so violate. You don't deal with anybody individually. As the sheriff, I stand as the gap between the people that I represent and was elected to represent and the person who is putting the hammer on you, or on the individual, who was not elected. He doesn't really care what you have to say unless he just personally cares, because he doesn't answer to you. He answers to his boss, who answers to his boss, who answers to his boss, none of which are elected officials. There's nobody local to listen to. You may have one if you switch agencies, you go over to BLM or something, then they will have a local person there, but they also don't answer to the people. They answer to their boss. I won't repeat what the gentleman said before about the DEQ's, that's Department of Environmental Quality. They've done studies. There have been numerous studies done. The EPA blames the U.S. fisheries for the rules that the EPA requires to fill the permit to dredge. I don't know who makes these rules. They weren't that way 10 years ago. Supposedly they used the Clean Water Act from 40 years ago. I don't know who makes these rules, but I don't think you do, and I don't think our senators and congressmen, I don't think they do either. I don't think any elected official, because apparently the EPA has the permission to make rules, so they hire somebody who's all-knowing, and he makes the rules to make sure that these people are all safe and that their rivers are clear and the birds are safe and the endangered species all live quietly, peacefully in the river. But that's not true in my opinion. I don't think that they use good, I guess you'd say, analogies or good information, because it's kind of like having two psychiatrists in court. One says the guy, he's crazy, I've tested him, and the other, hired by the opposing team, says he's not crazy, he's just fine. So science can go either direction. It depends on which side you're on, whether you like it or not. They claim the danger to the river by these dredges. And I say, and I'm not a scientist, and I don't know the dredging rules and environmental rules and all that, but I tell you there's one fire or one blowout, which we have, I would say, at least 1, 2, 3, 4 every year. Those will do more damage to the Salmon River or the Clearwater River or any other river than all the dredgers that you could dream up, and it's just, there's no comparison. If you've been on a fire and you see what happens after a fire, if you've seen a blowout, if you've ever been up toward our direction, Idaho County, and you see the river and all of a sudden it's just brown, you can't see it at all. It's absolutely filthy from a blowout. All the dredges in the world can't make that happen. And you know what? There's still salmon in there, and there's still steelhead, and there's still dredgers, and it's just some bad science they're using to cut the dredgers out, I believe.